The Galactic Council chamber was abuzz with heated debate. Representatives from 1,000 worlds argued back and forth, their voices rising in a cacophony of anger and frustration. At the center of the storm stood the Emperor himself, his face an impassive mask as he listened to the bickering of his subordinates. "We should take Earth by force," shouted one delegate, his fist slamming against the podium. "They have defied us for too long. It is time to show them the true might of the Galactic Empire." "Patience," counseled another, her voice calm and measured. "The humans are a stubborn species, but they can be reasoned with. Let us extend the hand of friendship once more. Surely they will see the wisdom in joining our great empire." The debate raged on, but the Emperor had heard enough. He raised a single hand, and the chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the supreme ruler of the galaxy, waiting for his decree. "The humans have been offered a place in our empire time and time again," the Emperor said, his voice cold and hard as steel. "Each time, they have spurned our generosity. They cling to their pitiful notions of independence and self-rule, blind to the glory that awaits them under imperial rule." He paused, letting his words sink in. The delegates shifted uneasily in their seats, sensing the weight of the Emperor's anger. "No more," the Emperor declared. "The time for diplomacy has passed. Earth will join the Empire, or it will be crushed beneath our heel. There can be no other way." A murmur of agreement swept through the chamber. The delegates knew better than to question the Emperor's will. Earth's fate had been sealed. Far below the council chamber, in the bustling streets of the imperial capital, life went on as usual. Merchants hawked their wares, children played in the parks, and starships came and went from the spaceport in a never-ending stream. But high above, in the gleaming towers of power, a plan was being set in motion that would change the course of history. On Earth, the news of the Emperor's ultimatum was met with a mixture of shock and defiance. The leaders of the planet's nations gathered in emergency session, their faces grim as they debated their next move. "We cannot bow to this tyranny," said the President of the United States, her voice ringing with conviction. "Earth is a sovereign world, and we will not be ruled by some distant emperor." "But what choice do we have?" asked the Prime Minister of India, his brow furrowed with worry. "The Galactic Empire is vast and powerful. We cannot hope to stand against them alone." "We are not alone," said the Secretary General of the United Nations, a note of hope creeping into his voice. "There are other worlds out there that chafe under imperial rule. If we can rally them to our cause, we may yet have a chance." The debate raged on, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would not submit to the Empire's demands. They would fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. The Empire's response was swift and merciless. A massive fleet of warships appeared in Earth's skies, blockading the planet and cutting off all trade and travel. The people of Earth watched in horror as their economy ground to a halt, and shortages of food and medicine began to take their toll. But even in the face of this overwhelming show of force, the people of Earth refused to give in. They banded together, pooling their resources and their ingenuity to find ways to survive under the blockade. Scientists and engineers worked day and night to develop new technologies that could break the imperial stranglehold, while ordinary citizens did their part to conserve and ration what little they had. The stage was set for a clash of wills that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The Galactic Empire, with its vast armies and its unquestioned dominance, against the stubborn people of Earth, fighting for their right to chart their own destiny. The ultimatum had been delivered, and the lines had been drawn. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and only time would tell who would emerge victorious in this epic struggle for the ages. The imperial blockade of Earth was unlike anything the planet had ever seen. A vast armada of warships surrounded the blue-green world, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Fighter craft patrolled the space lanes, ready to intercept any ship that dared to challenge the Empire's authority. On the surface, life had become a daily struggle for survival. With all trade and travel cut off, supplies of food, medicine, and other essentials began to dwindle. The people of Earth found themselves facing shortages and rationing, as governments struggled to distribute what little remained. In the face of this adversity, however, the human spirit proved resilient. Communities banded together, sharing what they had and finding creative ways to make do with less. Farmers worked overtime to coax every last bit of yield from their fields, while factories retooled to produce the goods that were in shortest supply. Meanwhile, Earth's greatest minds were hard at work, searching for a way to break the imperial blockade. In labs and workshops across the planet, scientists and engineers labored day and night, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and technology. At the forefront of this effort was Dr. Lina Patel, a brilliant physicist who had long dreamed of unlocking the secrets of faster-than-light travel. With the blockade in place, her work had taken on a new urgency. If she could find a way to bypass the Imperial ships, it could open up a lifeline for Earth. Day after day, Dr. Patel and her team worked tirelessly, poring over equations and running simulations. They were tantalizingly close to a breakthrough, but the final piece of the puzzle remained just out of reach. As the weeks turned into months, the situation on Earth grew increasingly dire. Food riots broke out in major cities as desperate people fought over dwindling supplies. Hospitals were overwhelmed with the sick and injured, while the streets filled with the homeless and the destitute. Through it all, the Empire remained implacable. The Emperor himself addressed the people of Earth, his holographic image towering over city squares and public spaces. He spoke of the futility of resistance and the inevitability of Earth's submission to imperial rule. But the people of Earth would not be cowed. They met the Emperor's words with defiance, rallying around their leaders and their flag. They knew that they were fighting not just for themselves, but for the future of their world. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, Dr. Patel and her team made their breakthrough. In a flurry of activity, they raced to build a prototype of their new faster-than-light drive. It was a huge risk. If the untested device failed, it could doom them all. But if it worked, it could change everything. The day of the test arrived, and the world held its breath. Dr. Patel and her team gathered in their lab, their faces taut with tension. With a final nod, Dr. Patel activated the drive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash of light, the prototype ship vanished, only to reappear a heartbeat later on the far side of the blockade. A cheer went up from the assembled scientists and engineers. They had done it. News of the breakthrough spread like wildfire. Across Earth, people celebrated in the streets, their spirits lifted by this tangible proof that the Empire could be defied. In the halls of power, leaders met to discuss how this new technology could be used to break the blockade once and for all. The Empire, for its part, was thrown into disarray. The Emperor raged at his subordinates, demanding to know how this could have happened. But even he could not deny the significance of what had occurred. The balance of power had shifted, and Earth now had a fighting chance. The blockade had been breached, but the war was far from over. Earth still faced an uphill battle against the might of the Galactic Empire. But with their new faster-than-light technology and their unbreakable spirit, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fight for freedom had only just begun. In the heart of the imperial capital, a clandestine meeting was taking place. In a dimly lit room, a group of shadowy figures gathered around a holographic display, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. "The humans have proven more resilient than we anticipated," said one of the figures, his voice thin and reedy. "Their new faster-than-light technology has given them an edge." "Then we must take that edge away," said another, her voice cold and calculating. "We have agents on Earth, do we not? It is time to put them to use." The group murmured in agreement, and the plan was set in motion. Across the galaxy, Imperial spies and saboteurs were mobilized, tasked with infiltrating Earth's government, military, and scientific institutions. Their goal was simple: to undermine humanity's resistance from within. On Earth, life was slowly returning to a new normal. With the blockade breached, supplies were once again flowing, and the people were beginning to rebuild. But even as they celebrated their victory, a new threat was emerging. In the corridors of power, strange things were happening. Key officials were making bizarre decisions, contradicting established policies, and sowing chaos and confusion. In the labs where Earth's greatest minds were working to perfect their faster-than-light technology, accidents and setbacks were becoming increasingly common. At first, these incidents were dismissed as mere coincidence, but as they mounted, suspicion began to grow. Earth's intelligence agencies, already on high alert, began to investigate. Leading the charge was Agent Jack Ward, a grizzled veteran of the CIA. Ward had a nose for trouble, and right now, that nose was twitching. He assembled a team of his best agents and set to work, determined to root out the Imperial infiltrators. It was a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, played out in the shadows. The Imperial agents were skilled and well-trained, blending seamlessly into Earth's population. But Ward and his team were relentless, following every lead and chasing down every hint. As the weeks passed, the net began to close. One by one, the Imperial agents were identified and apprehended. But even as Ward and his team celebrated their successes, they knew that the real mastermind remained at large. Their break came from an unlikely source. Dr. Lena Patel, the brilliant physicist who had cracked the faster-than-light code, had grown suspicious of one of her colleagues, a researcher named Dr. Mark Thompson. Thompson had been acting strangely, disappearing for long stretches, and making odd requests for access to sensitive data. Patel brought her concerns to Ward, who immediately launched an investigation. What they uncovered was shocking. Thompson was not who he claimed to be. He was an Imperial agent, planted years ago and working his way up through the ranks of Earth's scientific community. The revelation sent shockwaves through the government. If the Empire had managed to infiltrate at such a high level, who else might be compromised? A purge was launched, as every official and researcher was subjected to intense scrutiny. In the end, the infiltrators were rooted out, and the threat was neutralized. But the damage had been done. Trust had been eroded, and Earth's unity had been shaken. There was no time to dwell on the setback, however. Even as the last of the Imperial agents were being rounded up, news was reaching Earth of a new development. On the far reaches of the galaxy, whispers were spreading of rebellion against Imperial rule. Inspired by Earth's defiance, long-oppressed populations were rising up, challenging the Empire's authority. It was a glimmer of hope in the darkness, a chance for Earth to forge new alliances and turn the tide of the war. But the road ahead would be long and hard. The Empire was wounded, but not defeated. Earth had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The infiltration had been stopped, but the real fight was just beginning. In the halls of power, Earth's leaders gathered once more, their faces set with determination. They knew that the challenges ahead would be great, but they also knew that they had no choice but to face them head-on. The future of their world, and of the galaxy itself, depended on it. The Imperial ships hung in the void like silent sentinels, their hulls bristling with weapons. For months, they had maintained their stranglehold on Earth, blockading the planet and choking off its lifelines. But now, change was in the air. On the bridge of the Earth Force flagship, Admiral Elena Ivanova stood tall, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces set with determination. "All ships, report in," Ivanova said, her voice calm and steady. One by one, the captains of the Earth Force fleet checked in, their voices crackling over the comm. They were ready, armed with the new faster-than-light drives that Dr. Patel and her team had developed. The time had come to take the fight to the enemy. "Engage drives on my mark," Ivanova said. 3, 2, 1, mark. With a flare of brilliant light, the Earth Force ships leaped forward, crossing the vast distances of space in the blink of an eye. The Imperial ships, caught off guard by the sudden attack, scrambled to respond. But it was too late. The Earth Force ships were among them now, their weapons blazing. The first Imperial ship exploded in a ball of fire, then another and another. The blockade was crumbling. On the ground, people watched in awe as the night sky lit up with the flashes of distant battle. For the first time in months, there was hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, they could win this war. In the heart of the Imperial capital, the Emperor watched the reports coming in with growing fury. His grand plan was unraveling before his eyes. Earth, that upstart little planet, was proving to be a far greater threat than he had ever imagined. "Recall the fleet," he snapped at his advisors. "We must regroup and strike back harder." But even as the orders went out, the Earth Force ships pressed their advantage. They struck at Imperial outposts and supply lines, cutting off the enemy's support. The blockade was not just broken, but shattered beyond repair. Admiral Ivanova watched with satisfaction as the last Imperial ship fled before her fleet's might. It was a great victory, but she knew it was only the beginning. The Empire would not take this defeat lightly. Even now, Imperial reinforcements were surely racing towards Earth, ready to crush the rebellion once and for all. Earth Force would need to be ready to meet them. But Ivanova had a plan. The same faster-than-light technology that had allowed them to break the blockade could also be turned against the Empire. Hit-and-run raids deep into enemy territory could keep the Imperial forces off balance, buying Earth precious time to prepare its defenses. It was a daring strategy, but it was the only way. Earth stood alone, a single candle of freedom in a galaxy of darkness. They had to make their stand here and now, or all would be lost. As the Earth Force ships set out on their new mission, Ivanova allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She thought of all the sacrifices that had been made to bring them to this point, of all the brave men and women who had given their lives in the fight against tyranny. She thought, too, of the future, of the kind of galaxy she wanted to build. A galaxy where every species had the right to determine its own destiny, free from the yoke of Imperial oppression. It was a dream worth fighting for, Ivanova knew, and fight they would, to the bitter end if need be. Earth had taken the first step on the long road to victory. Now they had to see it through, no matter the cost. In the depths of space, the Earth Force ships raced onwards, their crews united by a common purpose. They were the tip of the spear, the vanguard of a new era, and they would not rest until the galaxy was free. News of Earth's stunning victory over the Imperial blockade spread like wildfire across the galaxy. On planet after planet, long-oppressed populations looked to the skies with newfound hope. If Earth, a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, could defy the might of the Empire, then perhaps they too had a chance at freedom. On the mining world of Kalos Prime, the workers laid down their tools and took up arms. For generations, they had toiled under the watchful eye of Imperial overseers, their lives and labor nothing more than resources to be exploited. But now, inspired by Earth's example, they rose up as one, driving the overseers from their posts and seizing control of the mines. It was a small victory, but a meaningful one, a first step on the path to liberation. Similar scenes played out on a dozen worlds, from the manufacturing hubs of the Orion Belt to the agricultural plains of New Eden. Everywhere the Empire's grip was weakest, the people were rising up, united by a common thirst for freedom. In the halls of power on Earth, news of the growing rebellion was greeted with cautious optimism. President Nadia Singh and her advisors knew that this was the opportunity they had been waiting for, a chance to forge a galaxy-wide alliance against imperial tyranny. But they also knew that the Empire would not let its subject world slip from its grasp without a fight. Even now, the imperial war machine was gearing up for a campaign of brutal repression, ready to crush any hint of resistance. Earth had to act fast if it wanted to make a difference. Envoys were dispatched to the rebel worlds, carrying messages of solidarity and offers of support. Earth Force ships took up positions on the front lines, ready to defend the fledgling uprisings against imperial retaliation. But as the rebellion grew in strength and scope, it became clear that more would be needed. The Empire had vast resources at its disposal and a seemingly endless supply of ships and soldiers. The rebels, for all their courage and determination, were outmatched. That was when Dr. Lena Patel and her team made a startling discovery. In the course of their research into faster-than-light technology, they had stumbled upon a new form of energy, a power source so potent that it could change the balance of the war. The implications were staggering. With this new energy source, Earth and its allies could build ships and weapons on a scale that the Empire could never match. They could turn the tide of the conflict, once and for all. But there was a problem. The energy source was unstable, and harnessing it would require a level of technological mastery that was still beyond Earth's reach. It would take time to perfect the technology, time that the rebellion might not have. President Singh faced a difficult choice. She could play it safe, focusing Earth's resources on shoring up the rebel alliance and fighting a defensive war. Or she could take a gamble, pouring everything into Dr. Patel's energy project in the hopes of winning a decisive advantage. In the end, the decision was clear. Earth had not come this far to settle for a stalemate. If there was even a chance of victory, they had to seize it. And so, even as the rebel alliance fought on against the Empire, Earth's greatest minds worked feverishly to unlock the secrets of the new energy source. It was a race against time, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Months passed, and the war raged on. The Empire struck back hard against the rebel worlds, but the Alliance held firm, buoyed by Earth's unwavering support. And all the while, in labs and workshops across the planet, the energy project moved closer to fruition. Finally, the breakthrough came. Dr. Patel and her team had done it. They had harnessed the power of the new energy source, and the first prototype ships were ready for action. The timing could not have been better. The Empire, sensing that the tide was turning against it, had marshaled the full might of its fleet for a final, all-out assault on the rebel strongholds. The fate of the rebellion would be decided in the battles to come. As Earth's ships, armed with their new devastating weapons, set out to join the fray, a sense of destiny hung in the air. The road to this moment had been long and hard, but now, at last, victory was within reach. The dream of a free galaxy was close at hand. All that remained was to fight for it. The Empire's fleet was a sight to behold, a vast armada of warships, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. At their center was the Emperor's flagship, a behemoth of a vessel bristling with weapons. Aboard the flagship, the Emperor himself sat upon his throne, his face a mask of cold determination. He had underestimated these rebels. He knew that now. But no more. Today, he would crush them once and for all, and restore order to his fractured empire. Opposite the Imperial fleet, the rebel alliance waited, their ships arranged in a defensive formation around their key strongholds. At their heart were the new Earth ships, sleek and deadly, thrumming with the power of their new energy cores. On the bridge of the lead Earth ship, Admiral Ivanova stood tall, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen. She knew the odds they faced. The Imperial fleet outnumbered them 10-1. But she also knew the power they now wielded, and the righteousness of their cause. "This is it," she said to her crew, her voice steady. "The moment we've all been fighting for. The Empire thinks it can crush us, but we're going to show them just how wrong they are. We fight not just for Earth, but for every world that dreams of freedom. Today, we make those dreams a reality." A cheer went up from the crew, a sound that was echoed across the rebel fleet. They were ready, come what may. The battle began with a flurry of laser fire, the void of space lighting up with deadly energy. The Imperial ships surged forward, their weapons pounding the rebel defenses. But the rebel ships held firm, their shields absorbing the worst of the barrage. And then, the Earth ships entered the fray. They moved like lightning, darting through the Imperial formation, their new weapons cutting through shields and hull alike. The Imperial ships, for all their size and power, were no match for this new technology. At the heart of the battle, Admiral Ivanova's ship faced off against the Emperor's flagship. It was a duel of titans, the two mightiest vessels in the galaxy locked in mortal combat. The flagship's weapons hammered at Ivanova's shields, pushing them to the brink of collapse. But Ivanova held her course, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "Steady," she said to her crew. "Wait for my signal." The flagship loomed closer, its hull filling the view screen. Ivanova could see the Emperor now, a small dark figure at the heart of his ship. "Fire," she said, her voice calm. A beam of pure energy leaped from Ivanova's ship, a lance of blinding white light. It struck the flagship's shields, and for a moment held. And then, with a flash, the shields collapsed. The beam tore through the flagship's hull like paper, carving a path of destruction through the mighty vessel. Secondary explosions blossomed in its wake, the ship coming apart from within. On the flagship's bridge, the Emperor barely had time to register what had happened before the explosion took him. In an instant, he was gone, the once mighty ruler reduced to atoms. Across the battlefield, a cheer went up from the rebel ships. The flagship was destroyed, the Emperor dead. Against all odds, they had won. But the battle was not over yet. The Imperial ships, leaderless and demoralized, fought on, desperate to avenge their fallen ruler. It was a brutal, bloody affair, the rebel ships taking heavy losses even as they pressed their advantage. But in the end, the result was never in doubt. One by one, the Imperial ships fell, picked off by the rebel fleet's superior firepower. And then, at last, it was over. The last Imperial ship surrendered, and a hush fell over the battlefield. In the silence, Admiral Ivanova spoke, her voice broadcast to every ship in the fleet. "This is a historic day," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. "A day that will be remembered for generations to come. Today, we have shown the galaxy that tyranny and oppression will not stand, that the spirit of freedom cannot be extinguished, that a new era has begun." As her words echoed across the fleet, a sense of joy and relief swept through the rebel ships. They had done it. Against all odds, they had toppled an empire and changed the course of galactic history. The road ahead would not be easy, but for now, in this moment of triumph, anything seemed possible. On Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. In cities and towns across the planet, people took to the streets in celebration, their faces alight with hope and pride. They had played their part in this great struggle, and now, at last, they could reap the rewards. A new age had dawned, a time of freedom and opportunity, and Earth would be at the forefront of it all, a beacon of hope for a galaxy that had lived too long in darkness. The future was bright, and it belonged to them. In the wake of the Empire's fall, a new order emerged in the galaxy. The rebel worlds, once united by their shared oppression, now faced the daunting task of building a lasting peace. At the forefront of this effort was Earth, as the birthplace of the technology that had turned the tide of the war, and the home of the heroes who had led the fight. Earth found itself in a unique position of influence and responsibility. Under the leadership of President Singh and Admiral Ivanova, Earth worked tirelessly to forge a new alliance among the former rebel worlds. It was a delicate process, balancing the needs and desires of a diverse array of species and cultures. But Earth's leaders were determined to get it right. They knew that the galaxy had suffered too long under the yoke of tyranny, and that this was a once-in-a-generation chance to build something better. Central to their efforts was a commitment to the principles of freedom, equality, and self-determination. Each world in the alliance would have a say in its own governance, and a seat at the table when it came to shaping the future of the galaxy. It was a bold vision, and not everyone was convinced it could work. There were those who feared that without the iron fist of the Empire, the galaxy would descend into chaos and conflict. But Earth's leaders held firm. They believed in the power of cooperation and the inherent goodness of all sentient beings, and they were willing to put in the hard work to make their vision a reality. As the weeks and months passed, the alliance began to take shape. Trade routes were established, diplomatic ties were forged, and a new sense of hope and possibility took root across the galaxy. On Earth, life began to return to normal. The scars of the war would take time to heal, but the planet's spirit was unbroken. In the cities and towns, people went about their lives with a new sense of pride and purpose, knowing that they had played a part in something greater than themselves. But even as Earth celebrated its newfound peace and prosperity, there were those who warned of dangers on the horizon. The Empire may have been defeated, but its legacy lived on in the form of loyalist factions and rogue warlords who sought to carve out their own fiefdoms in the post-war chaos. Admiral Ivanova, now the head of Earth's defense forces, knew that vigilance was the price of freedom. She worked tirelessly to strengthen the Alliance's military capabilities, knowing that they had to be ready for any threat that might emerge. At the same time, Dr. Patel and her team continued to push the boundaries of scientific discovery. With the resources of the entire Alliance at their disposal, they embarked on ambitious new projects, from unlocking the secrets of artificial gravity to exploring the farthest reaches of the galaxy. It was a time of great change and great opportunity. The old certainties of the Imperial era had been swept away, and in their place, a new galaxy was taking shape, one where anything was possible. As Earth and its allies looked to the future, they knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks, moments of doubt and fear. But they also knew that they had something worth fighting for. A vision of a galaxy where every being could live in freedom and dignity, where cooperation and understanding prevailed over conflict and oppression. It was a dream that had been born in the darkest days of the war, when Earth had stood alone against the might of the Empire. Now, with the Alliance at its side, that dream was within reach. And so, as the stars shone down on a galaxy reborn, Earth and its people looked to the future with hope and determination. They had won their freedom, and now they would build a better tomorrow, for themselves and for all the generations to come. The Empire was gone, but the story of the galaxy was just beginning, and Earth would be there, every step of the way, leading the charge into a brighter future. It was a destiny they had earned, through blood and sacrifice and unwavering courage, and it was a destiny they would embrace, with all the strength and resilience of the human spirit.